we're given three different file types. The first file contains information about the NDVI values for each part of land in each county. And then we have another file, another image file containing values representing the type of crop at each part in the county. And another file contains a database corresponding to this image, which relates the values found in this image to the actual type of crop. And one thing to note too was that the NDVI images were at a much lower scale than the crop value images. So we had to use resampling to make sure that those were the same resolution for the next step. And so for the next step, we leveraged GPT-4 to separate the actual agricultural crops from the non-agricultural crops. And in further practice, we could use a domain-specific knowledge and an expert to separate these, and we can use those for potentially better results. But for now, we use GPT to separate those values, and we use that to create a mask over the pixels in the counties, and we use that to extract the statistical information. And so in order to make this computation faster, since we are given over 14,000 files, we use parallelization as well as writing efficient code and algorithms to make sure that we can handle large amount of data.
Once we had the mean NDVI computed for every single year, we wanted to see how much data was missing and actually exactly how it was missing. So we constructed this 2D heat map right here, where the x-axis shows time and the y-axis shows the different counties. Every yellow spot represents a period of time in which the data was missing, while the purple spots represent periods of time where the data for NDVI was present. And so you can see these huge areas of missingness in the data, which couldn't really be imputed using any sort of basic imputation method, like a cubic spline. One approach we took was just ignoring the fact that these years were missing. Since they're consistent across all the different counties, we're able to almost squish the years together. However, to be thorough, we also took another approach based on simulating the missing years of data.
Here you can see the sample mean NDVI for the Adams County with the weekly data overlaid on top of each other. There's several years missing, as we pointed out earlier, but one thing to note here is that the data is relatively stationary. It's not changing year over year. Also, the seasonality or periodicity of the data aligns really well with the annual periods here. And so what this allowed us to do is stochastically impute the missing years. Essentially, what we did is constructed an archetypal year based on the mean NDVIs and also estimated the variance at every single week, and then kind of simulated these missing weeks. This worked really well, and the imputed simulated years are relatively indistinguishable from the real years.
So after the data cleaning process, we used the imputed and also the sparse data to fit ARMA models. And generally for time series analysis, the default method is some variation of the ARMA model. The model requires stationarity, and we use the ADF test and also the KPSS test to check for unit roots. And we investigated whether the use of differencing was ever necessary in any facet. We were able to automate this process by selecting optimally tuned ARMA models, and that meant that for each county you were able to get a different optimally trained and selected model. In this case, the SARMA model was used most of the time, and we should expect this since we can expect a frequency of 52 weeks at a time at least, since the reports were yearly. So the model worked well, and it forecasted for the 2023 pretty closely compared to the actual data, which means that it's able to generalize well, and the method we chose was good. We did want to see whether adding more data improved the model's performance. So in the imputed set, we had tighter confidence intervals. That's likely because you can expect the statistical confidence to increase with more data, which we had with the simulated data, and therefore we can expect that if we were to get more data recovered from the previous years, more real data, we would expect a better result from the model.
We also wanted to test a deep learning based approach that could generalize across all the counties in the region. This is informed by the knowledge that all these counties were in one region of the US, so we felt like it was a valid assumption that a single model could generalize across all the counties in the dataset. We also saw relative consistency in the seasonality across all the counties, and so we fit an LSTM model to predict the next year's crop phenology based on the previous year's crop phenology. We used things like a dropout layer to prevent overfitting, and we found that our LSTM model was able to match the performance of the ARMA models. In conclusion, we've developed a scalable pipeline using VetScrape and CropScape data to forecast crop phenology across western U.S. counties. We applied SARMA to both real and simulated data and explored a deep learning approach with LSTM, both achieving strong results. Our work could empower farmers to optimize resource use and make informed decisions, while policymakers could also leverage these insights for food security and resource allocation. Future work includes adding environmental factors like precipitation into the feature set and also expanding the model to generalize across other regions.